Chat. Where are you? There you are. All righty. Okay. Okay. All right. Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Gloria.
How are you?
Good evening. Tired.
I'm sure you guys are tired and exploding. I have no doubts about that. I am absolutely positive about that. And unfortunately, I'm going to pile on some more. So instead of doing a math question or a math item, I am going to ask you two questions. I'm going to maybe ask you 2 or 3 questions on the subjects that you've already done. And hopefully this will help you to remember. All right. So we're going to start. I think you should be able to read it. It's a PDF. I think I put it up high, big enough so you can read it. Okay, so we're going to do right now, we are going to do question number 1. So an individual who is authorized and consents to represent the interests of another person is known as what?
An agent.
An agent. Good job. Ding, 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 ding. All right. That was a very pleasant surprise. Okay, so let's do number 3. An agent's obligation to use skill and expertise on behalf of the principal arises under which of these common law duties?
Obedience.
Obedience.
Nope.
Care.
Anybody else? Care. Ding, 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 ding. All right. So the answer is care. And what we owe, that's when we have old car or cold, whatever you want to call it. But in general, for the public, for the consumer, even if we don't have any kind of agreements, we owe them reasonable care, fair and honest dealing. All right. So care is always, most of the time, going to be the answer that you're looking for. All right, let's go to number 6. A person who is designated by the principal in a broad range of matters related to a particular transaction or activity is known as what? And there's a keyword, there's 2 keywords in there.
General
Special
agent.
agents.
Oh my God, good job, everybody. Ding, 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 ding. All right, so we'll get off of this one. Okay. And then we are going to go to a New Jersey specific question. All right. So let me see if I can, this should be able to go up. All right. So we're going to do a true or false. The New Jersey Real Estate Commission could assess a total fine of $15,000 against the licensee for their first 2 violations of the New Jersey Real Estate Licensing Act.
True.
True. Ding, 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 ding. Good job. Okay. The New Jersey Real Estate Commission could permanently suspend a licensee on a first offense.
False.
Good job.
False.
Ding, ding, ding. The broker of record is required to keep permanent records of unaccepted offers for 6 years.
False.
False.
Good job. All right.
6 months.
Bravo, guys. Kudos to y'all. All right. So we're now going to go into chapter 4. And chapter 4 is very important because there's
Hawaii.
okay,
No,
watch it, please. Okay. So chapter 4 is very important because it has to do with fair housing. Okay. And fair housing is very important, and where the glitches are usually when we're talking about renting or leasing. All right. It does not necessarily happen as much when we're talking about selling. So that's why it's very, very important. Okay. The law that we have to abide by, one of the many, but the main one for us is the New Jersey law against discrimination, known as NJ LAD. We just refer it to NJ LAD. Okay. So the other laws that we have is the Equal Opportunity in Housing, or the Equal Opportunity Act. Okay, so basically here we are trying to make sure that we are able to give opportunities to people to either buy a house or to be able to rent a house without any kind of discrimination. All right, so basically no discrimination allowed. All right. And so in this case, we need to be aware of what is considered illegal and discriminatory practices. All right. So it starts out first with the Civil Rights Act of 1866. And everybody knows that the Civil Rights Act of 1866 is that you cannot discriminate based on color or race. All right. That's the main thing of the main ruling. I can't find the right words, but anyway, the main ruling again regarding the civil rights of 1866. All right. And then we have the next one, which is the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968. It is also known as Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. All right. So they won't say Title 8 of the Civil Rights Act of 1968. They'll say the Title 8, blah, 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 blah. All right. Or they will say the Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968. All right. So those are your two choices. You do need to remember those. All right. And here again, this applies to whether we're selling or we're leasing. Okay. So again, here we have obviously no race and color discrimination, but now we have, in addition, we have religion, national origin. All right. And that includes the origin of your ancestors. Okay. And then in 1974, they added sex. All right. So those are the main ingredients for the Federal Fair Housing Act. Now, when we're talking about laws, okay, the key ingredient that you have to remember is that the most restrictive law for the state that you're working in, so for us it's New Jersey, the most restrictive law is the one that is always the one that we're always going to have to abide by. Okay. So for us in New Jersey, it will always be the New Jersey law against discrimination. And as we go further down, you'll see the reasoning. You'll see the reason why. So, and if there is another law that could be stricter than that, then we would have to abide by that. And for us, again, that would be the municipality. Okay, so again, in this instance, we're back to talking about rentals and leases. Okay, so in general, for us, the strictest law is the New Jersey law against discrimination. And then after that, the next addition to that strictness will be any municipality laws or rules that they add to that. So in some cases, that could be that they would say this, I don't know square footage. I'm just going to use a number. So this 500 square foot studio, you could only have one person in this studio. All right. So then in that case, we have to abide by the municipality rule and only rent it out to one person. All right. So that's where it gets more strict based on the municipality. All right. So the Federal Fair Housing, what are we allowed or not allowed to do? Well, basically, we cannot refuse to sell, rent, or negotiate because of any particular reason. If they're not financially viable, then obviously that's a good reason. But we can't discriminate because of race, color, religion, and national origin. Okay, we cannot change any terms or conditions or services to the different individuals. So let's just say I'm sitting at the table like we used to do in the olden days, and I see a lady pull up in a Mercedes Benz, and let's say, and she comes in and she's talking to me about rentals. Okay, so because she's pulled in with a Mercedes Benz, not a good word to use, but I would assume that she's pretty legit. She's got money and everything. So I may not, in quotation marks, not that I would, may not do a credit report on her, right? But then here I see somebody coming off of the bus, the public municipal bus, and is coming into my building. And so now I know that they don't have a car and they're probably strapped, et cetera, et cetera. Again, it's an assumption, right? And so now I would probably have them fill out all sorts of paperwork and do a credit report, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what they mean about giving services for different individuals. All right. The key in real estate, and again, this is going to be no matter whether you're representing the buyer, the seller, or a leasing individual, a renting individual. You are going to have systems. Systems is what's going to keep you sane in the real estate business. All right. And then systems are also what are going to keep you legal. Okay, so once you have a system, let's say you have a seller system. So the seller system is, you are obviously going to put together, well, it may not be obvious, but it is obvious. Okay, you are going to put together a marketing sheet. Obviously, you're going to take it maybe from the brokerage company that you're affiliated with, but you are going to add your own items to your marketing. So let's just say, for argument's sake, that your whether it be your pocketbook or your decision, again, it's all up to you. You might state in your marketing flyer that you're going to do professional photos for no matter who, even if it's a $50,000 trailer or whatever it is. You're going to do professional photos, but when it comes to a property that's more than $750,000, valued more than 750, then you would consider doing a drone photography. And if the property is worth more than $1,500,000, then you may consider doing floor plans. All right. And you're going to have that in your marketing flyer, so that no matter who you are talking to, you will be giving them this flyer. And it doesn't matter whether it's a $50,000 house or a $5 million house, they're going to see the exact same thing that you're handing to everybody. Is everybody good with that? Are we all okay with that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that's, and that's very practical, because now you can pick and choose, in the sense that somebody might say, well, I would like to have drone photography. Well, then you're going to have to explain the reasons, because understand, again, you guys are the ones that are paying for this. The brokerage company is not paying for it. Okay. And photographs are not cheap. So professional photographs, it can start at $250, $400 and go on up. Some photographers base it on the majority of photographers base it on the square footage, and then they could add the timing in addition to that. So if somebody wants to have what they call a dusk lighting or night lighting, then that photographer is going to either have to come back, depending on how the property situates for photography, but they might have to come back and take pictures at night, because they don't know how the lighting is at the house. And so again, that would add costs to that, right? Somebody might want to do, I'm seeing a lot of drone photographs of late. So somebody might want to have a drone photograph, then you would do a drone photograph. In my humble opinion, which I shouldn't have, but in my humble opinion, I think drone photography is best for properties that are near waterfront, to show how close it is to the waterfront. And also when we're talking large properties with lots of acreage and lots of buildings. All right. I don't believe because it's not cheap. Again, we're talking not inexpensive. So I don't believe that you would need it for a nice little neighborhood, unless you want to show the neighborhood. And you know, again, that's up to you. But I truly believe that drone photography is better suited to show if you're close to the water or how far away are you from important things to a person. All right, what you would think would be important. All right, so
Question.
yes.
If have, you know, I don't know if you've actually ever done that, but what would be like, you know, a reasonable charge that a photographer would charge you for aerial footage like that, you know, on a per case basis?
I did drone photography because it was waterfront.
Okay.
And so I didn't do it. It was done. It has to be done by a professional because I don't know
Sure.
if you all know this, but the drone photographer has to, like, as if they were flying an airplane, they have to send a schedule to the FAA. So again, you have to talk this ahead of time. I truly don't remember, but I remember it being extremely expensive. I want to say, what the hell was it? Because my photographer, I had to use another photographer because he didn't do drone. So I want to say it was like $800.
Okay.
Photographs and drone. Let's understand that though. Photographs and drone. All right. And that's
enough.
more than I usually spend. But again, this property deemed that photography. Okay. So again, you know, want to explain to them, you know, that it's coming out because people don't realize, and I'm sure you guys didn't realize this when you came in, you know, came to take the course. We are the ones that are paying for everything. Okay. So the brokers are not paying for anything. And I think a lot of sellers don't understand that. And so you have to explain to them that, you know, it is your money and, you know, you'll do what you think is necessary. You know, if they start, there are some sellers that could be really nasty. And so again, I'm just giving you the heads up. All right. Because sometimes they don't realize that it's coming out of your pocket. Okay. Representing that the dwelling is not available. All right. So again, there's some instances where certain types of people will not make the property available because they only want to lease it or sell it to their own kind. That's illegal. Is it done in real life? Yes, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about right now for the state exam. So it is illegal, but real life is totally different than what we're studying here in the books. Okay. And then altering any kind of terms or conditions on a contract or for a mortgage, and then denying people membership. So again, none of this, we basically have to be equal, whether we like it or not. We may not agree to it 100%. We just have to be equal to everybody. And so if you have your little systems set up, you're never going to go wrong because all you're going to do is you're going to use your system and you're going to go have at it. All right. That's the best way to explain it. Okay. So for the Federal Fair Housing Act, okay, it's the sale or the rental of a single family home is exempted, meaning it doesn't come under the law. Okay. If an individual, so now it's the owner, if the owner who does not own more than 3 homes, okay, they're not using a broker and there's no discriminatory advertising used, then the owner can choose to whom they're going to sell. All right. But again, they could never, ever, ever discriminate on race and color. Okay. The rental of rooms or units, again, is exempted if it's owner occupied. And the key here, this is what you have to remember. This is for the fair housing law. So it's 1 to 4 family. Okay. So rental of units for 1 to 4 family, again, owner occupied, they are exempted from the Fair Housing Act with the exception, again, of race and color. Dwellings that are owned by religious organizations, okay, they can restrict to whom they are going to rent, okay? But again, we're talking about the owners of that dwelling. They cannot use a real estate agent, all right? Because if If they use a real estate agent, then the real estate agent must abide by the law, and therefore we cannot discriminate. And then the private club that is not open to the public. So let's just say it's a golf course that's by membership only, and they have a club and or lodgings, rooms that they can rent out. They can, again, exclude the public from renting out those lodgings or using the club for their purposes. All right. So, and again, as long as this club is not used commercially, meaning the public can't go into it. All right. So that's, again, just so we understand, this is the fair housing law. So again, the rental of rooms is 1 to 4 family. That is strictly the fair housing. Again, owner occupied, and only the owner can do it. They cannot use a real estate agent. So then in 1974, they added some more protections, class protections. So and you don't, I'll just say this, you don't need to know the years or the dates, but you do need to know these in case they ask you questions on it. All right. So mental or physical disabilities, including AIDS, was added. Familial status, which in this case means any person with children under the age of 18. Now that could be a single father, that could be a single mother, that could be a family, husband and wife. All right. But if they have children under the age of 18, and including foster children, they are not allowed to be discriminated against. And then in 1995, there were some laws put together, which is known as the Housing for Older Persons Act. And here, this is where it will not be considered discrimination when we're talking about communities 55 and older, or we are talking about communities that are strictly senior citizen living. All right, that would not be considered discrimination because the laws were set up for that, for those items. Okay. All right. Any questions? Are we all good so far? Okay.
Yep.
Good, thank you. All right, so then we have the Equal Credit Opportunity Act. Okay, so that's another law. Now, this is a financing law, right? So what it says is that we can't discriminate against race, color, religion, national origin, sex, marital status, age, or, and this is the key, and this is where they're going to hone in if there's going to be any kind of questions, they're going to hone in on income from public assistance. All right, so like we could talk about rental checks from FEMA or rental checks from the government when we had, the COVID rental checks, or Section 8. Okay, so any kind of public assistance or monies that the individual is getting, they can, the money people, mortgage people, whoever we want to call them, they cannot discriminate against the fact that these people are getting government public assistance. All right. And then, and so that's, again, nowadays in real life, just so y'all know, that is a big deal right now. All right. And again, we're taught this for us will hit more for leasing and renting than it would for us on selling a house. All right. For us as realtors, it's going to hit us more on the rental and the leasing market. Okay. The next one is alcoholics and persons in treatment are considered a protected class. So the alcoholic or the drug abuser must be in a treatment program, then they are considered disabled. But if they are not in a treatment program, then they are not considered disabled and they will not be treated as such. Okay. The next thing is right. Okay. And then again, the people that are involved with the manufacturing or distribution of drugs and things like that, they are not a protected class. You're only protected if you are in a designated program. Okay. So with regards to the familial status, again, it's going to be that the familial status is any family or person with children under the age of 18 cannot be discriminated against. And anybody that is renting or buying in a 55 and over community, that is not considered discrimination because the law was set up for that. And the same thing where we have properties that are set up for senior citizens 62 and over, that's not considered discrimination because the law has been set up for that. The part that you need to know about the 55 and over, okay, is that 80% of the units must be occupied by a person at least 55 and over, okay? And then if there's, the way the law is written up, if there's 80% ownership or rentalship, I guess that's what it's called, of 55 and over, then they could, if they wanted to, rent or sell to people younger than 55, okay, in a 55 community, 55 plus community. But most management will not do that because it means they have to really keep track of who's moving in, who's moving out, who's selling, who's not selling. But the answer is, can somebody purchase in a 55 and over community if the community has 80% of 55 and over? The answer is yes. Okay.
But is that up to the community? I mean, is
That's
that
up
up
to
to
the
like?
community.
It
That
is,
would be
okay.
up to the community. That would be up to the, what do you
The
call those? The
association.
homeowners association or the management,
Right.
right? And then they would have to they would have to have those written in policies, right? But a 52-year-old could buy the property for mom, right? So they own the property, but mom is over 55 and mom is living in that property. All right. So you can do that. And in a 55 and over community, you cannot have children under the age of 19. So if mom wants to go to a 55 or anybody wants to go into a 55 and they have a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old, they're not going to be able to buy and live there. The children. Okay, so that's the other thing. So 19 years old is the cutoff for children living with mom or dad, right? And then the grandkids they can maybe stay overnight 1 or 2 nights, but it cannot be on a continuous level again. So they do have strict regulations regarding the 55 and over, okay? All right, so let's see what else do we have here. Okay, if you're again, like I said, most of this is for rentals. So you cannot refuse an individual who has a disability. Okay. So in this case, you cannot refuse somebody who has a service animal. That's the key word. Okay. They have a service animal. You can see that they're in a wheelchair. You can see, let's say they're blind and they have a stick, right? You can see these people are disabled and therefore, oh, sorry about that. Let me shut that off. And they are disabled and they have an animal with the service animal jacket and all of that kind of stuff. So you cannot refuse them if your building or apartment or house or whatever it is that you're renting says no pets. Okay. So the only way that you can not rent to them, and that goes for anything and anybody, is if they do not qualify financially, right? If they don't have a good credit score, and so therefore we can't rent to you because we can see from your credit score and looking at your credit score, you don't pay your bills. It's as simple as that. So I want to make sure that my owner gets paid, on a timely basis. So the key here is, what is a service animal? A service animal is considered a dog, or believe it or not, a mini pony. All right. And these animals are performing tasks. They are not pets. They are working animals. All right. And that is a big deal. And that someone's going to get a question like that. Okay. And then the next thing is, now, again, let's just go by the book. Let's not remember, or if you heard anything, forget anything and everything that you heard for the state exam. All right. So emotional support animals are therapeutic animals. All right. So they have to have, the person that's giving it to you has to have a valid letter written on the mental health professional letterhead, along with the contact and information and the practice address. All right. And HUD states that the online certificates are not meaningful and should not be considered as verification. So in this case, again, we are the listing agent, because again, a lot of this comes from the listing side more so than from the buy side. So our intent is to protect our landlord, right? Our owner of the property. So if a buyer's agent or rental agent comes to me and says, look, I got this person, and they say that they have an emotionally support animal and everything, you have every right, 100% every right to ask for that letter. Okay. And then you have every right to call up that person on the letterhead and ask them. You're not asking them why they're having this animal. That's not what you're asking. You are asking to find out if they actually prescribed the emotional animal. All right. Now that's a big difference. So you're asking them, did they prescribe this animal, and is this letter written from them? Okay. And so again, if there's out of state letters or anything like that, I would have a very difficult time believing it. Okay. Unless you know factually that they moved, or you can look on the credit report, you see that they moved or something like that. But we have the right to ask them that. Now, I will tell you from my experience on something that happened last year, I guess it was. God, time flies. If you're dealing with somebody who has not rented before, okay, and they say to you that, and let's say it's not just one house, let's say they have an apartment building or something, you looked out and you got an apartment building, and they say, okay, well, we will allow pets. All right. This is, thank God I thought of it, because I've never rented before. I'll tell you that honestly. Up until last year, I've never really rented. I sold, and never really rented. And then obviously we all know the market went down. So this was brand new construction. And so I took on this building. And what I did was I told the owner that they need, if they're going to be accepting animals, all right, I thought only this far. I should have thought this far. But I said, if they're going to be accepting dogs, then we need to make sure that all these dogs are vaccinated. All right. And that we need to get a copy of the vet's vaccination, certificate. All right. Thank God I did that, because they had 3 altercations where these dogs bit one of the tenants, or I don't know. I mean, I wasn't involved in it, but there were altercations where the tenants were bit by dogs. All right. And so thank God we had those valid certificates to prove that these animals were vaccinated, with the rabies vaccination. The part that I didn't think further, which we've now changed, is that the owner of the building has the right to designate what kind of animals they will allow. All right. So since then, he's now put a restriction on, what are they called? Pit bulls, bulldogs. I don't know. And they put a weight restriction. All right. So if you're going to be doing any kind of rental, I'm just giving you something that I learned just from my own experience. And this was just recent. All right.
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
So you mentioned whether the animal is prescribed or emotional, and those are perhaps 2 different things, right? So a dog, for example, I can easily go to do like an online visits, and it's going to cost me $100, and then I get a license, right? Dog that he is considered to be emotional support dog, right? It's a quick dialogue that we have, but this is not prescribing a dog as a service animal or emotional support, right? This is the fact that the dog is qualified such as an emotional support versus I'm being prescribed with an emotional support dog. Is there a difference between the two of them? Can one of them be considered to be like under the protected law that, you know, we have to accept him, and the other one would be one that we can possibly push back?
Yes, the service animal, right? The service animal is the one for a handicapped or disabled individual, right? The person is in a wheelchair and they have a dog. The dog opens up the dog opens the door or whatever the dog performs, right? And they have a jacket that says service animal. That's the animal you cannot you cannot refuse.
So that's exactly what I'm questioning. The matter of the fact is that you can call and do an online appointment, and you can get this type of jacket for your dog for $100. Does that turn the dog into an emotional support dog? For
Well, first off,
handicap, for example?
again, we're back to online certificates are not meaningful and should not be considered as verification.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. It's right here. And that's why I'm telling you to protect yourself. Again, service animals, the person you're talking about is a disabled individual. A service animal is for a disabled individual, usually, right? A blind person or somebody that's on, that has crutches or they're in a wheelchair. I mean, that's what a service animal, they are working animals. So the person has to have this animal to survive living.
I
Okay.
understand, but they're emotional support
No, they're
animals.
not. There are service animals. The emotional support animal is something that's just brand new, and that's for somebody that's got depression, anxiety, phobia, but they still have to be prescribed.
Got it. Thank you.
Okay, so and again, like I said, let's just go by what it says here in the book for the state exam. You're going to find a whole bunch of other things in real life, and I'm not going. You don't need to get confused regarding that. Let's just talk about it for the state exam purposes only. All right. So, but again, I was just giving you my little situation about what happened where my owner, took anybody, and then we had a major problem because he took pit bulls and whatever dogs, and there was an issue with it. But thank God that we had the rabies vaccination to prove at least these animals were, vaccinated. All right. The other thing is, again, neither the service animals or emotionally support animals can be walking around the property without a leash. All right. So again, that person that has this animal, if they're really handicapped or have issues, then they're not going to leave that dog walking around on its own, because they need that dog for support. Right. That's really the bottom line of it. Okay. The other thing is that legally, service animals, in this case, dogs, or again, a service animal is considered either a dog or a small pony. That is a service animal. Okay. And then the emotional support animals, well, we've seen a lot of TV things going on, so we're not going to go there. But a service animal is legally allowed to go into shops, businesses, public buildings, courts, libraries, etc. Because once again, that person needs that animal to be there to help them do what open doors, whatever it is that they got to do. All right. So that's the basics of it. All right. The brokerage company has to have all the posters. There's a whole bunch of different posters out there. So the equal housing opportunity poster has to be hung up in all of the brokerage offices. Typically, they are in the little kitchenette because that's where everybody is. So they're usually in the little kitchenette. This logo you will need to have on anything that you are going to be advertising. It can be teensy weensy. All right. But it must be on anything that you are advertising. Could be on your did my brokerage put that on there? No, they didn't. Some brokerages put it on their business cards. They put that and the realtor and then the MLS logo. So you have the equal housing, realtor, and MLS logo. And again, that has to be on anything. If you're going to be doing your own letterhead, you must have that on there. If you're sending out postcards, that must be on there. And so on and so forth. All right. So these are legal things that you must have when we're talking about advertising. All right. Okay. So now the next thing that we're talking about is blockbusting and steering. So, sorry, hold on. Okay. So blockbusting is also known as panic peddling. All right. So panic peddling means that I'm going to knock on doors on, let's say, a block on both sides, and I'm going to say, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Owner, you need to hurry up and put your house on the market because undesirable people are moving into the area, and as a result of that, your value of your house is going to go down. All right. And a lot of times, so that's basically what blockbusting is. Okay. And so that's illegal. Now, again, in real life, does that happen? Yes. But the point of the matter, though, it's illegal. All right. We're not allowed to do that. There's another version of blockbusting. I don't know where it comes up, so I might as well hit it now. The other version of blockbusting is if you, as a listing agent, you are really good at what you do. Okay. And so you got this one listing on this one block, and you did really well. And the neighbors saw it because you had lots of traffic going in and out and everything. And then let's say the neighbor across the street calls you up and says, hey, listen, I want to list my house with you, blah, blah, blah. And you do that. And again, it's another success. And then maybe a block or two again, keyword in the same neighborhood. That's the keyword, same neighborhood. Then another neighbor calls you up and says, hey, listen, I want to sell the house. And you take that listing, and then somebody else. So 3 or more listings in the same neighborhood within a month. All right. Could be 4 weeks or within 6 weeks. Okay. That could be considered, in quotation marks, blockbusting. All right. So you would have to prove that it was not blockbusting, that these people contacted you. All right. So let me just see if I can get I think I got my thing working today. So we're not going to be going through a hassle. The reason is because I want to show you something. All right. Okay. So here is house number 1, right? House number 2. House number 3, we're going to make it 4 houses. Okay. All right. So I listed this. Okay. And I sent out a just sold card. Right. So everybody in the neighborhood got the just sold card. All right. Then it went under contract. So I just sent out an under contract card. Okay. So now again, everybody got that. All right. So now number 2 calls me up. So I have number 2, right? We just listed it. And so now I'm sending out, not just sold, just listed. Sorry. Just listed. Gloria. Just listed card, right? And then I'm sending it out to everybody. And then when this goes under contract, I'm going to send out a just under contract card. Now this one's sold. So now depending whether I had the buyer or I was just the listing agent. So if I was just the listing agent, then I participated in the sale. All right. And in this case, that's what I was, right? And then this one here, let's say I got the buyer. So then I'm going to say I just sold the property because I had the buyer. So I have the right to say that. So now we have number 3. Again, we're doing the same thing. And again, number 4, we're doing the same thing. All right. And all of these other people I got as a result of, they saw the traffic, but also as a result of my sending out my marketing materials. All right. So to prevent yourself from having any kind of questions coming up, just hold on to all of your marketing material for those 3 houses in the same neighborhood. And you're going to need to hold on to it for 1 year. And then after that, you can trash it. All right, everybody good with that?
Yep.
Good. All right, the next one is steering. So steering is where we are channeling or directing people into a certain area. Okay, so that means, and again, this is not meant insultingly, so please don't take it as such. So let's just say I had this Indian couple that called me up on the phone. I can tell that they're Indian. And so now I know in my area, a lot of Indian people live in Marlborough and Colts Neck and Homedale. And so they tell me, Gloria, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house, blah, 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 et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so all I do is I look at the houses in the Homedale, Colts Neck, and whatever, Marlborough. And so then we meet up and I am just automatically taking them to that area. Okay, that is called steering. I'm making that decision of where they should live for them. Okay, so that's steering, and that is illegal. Okay, so if this Indian couple calls me up and they say, Gloria, we're looking for a house, then basically what I am going to do is I am going to find houses that match their criteria, that match. You can ask, what do you want to ask? Oh, you want to ask, can you ask them? Well, you can always ask them, but you're still going to have to show them houses in other areas. All right. I would do that the first and second time. Again, because as I mentioned before, they have checkers, right? Testers and checkers. So the first time, the second time, and maybe on the second time, they may say, okay, Gloria, look, I want them to be not pissed off, but I want them to be adamant about where they want to live. All right, that they want to be in the same community as the other, let's say, Indians in this example, or Chinese people or whatever. All right, because I don't want to have them within their circle. Again, remember, there's always cliques, no matter how you look at it. I don't want them to be told from a circle of their friends that, oh, why did you buy? Didn't you see that house over there? Blah, blah, blah. It was this price, and it was exactly what you were looking for. And then those people say, oh, my realtor never showed me that. Right. And so then that could be perceived as steering. Okay. So I want them to tell me, Gloria, we really truly only want to see houses in Marlborough or Manalapan or whatever the towns are. All right. And then every now and then, if I see something that's in the same area, maybe not in the same town, but let's say the next town over, I might say, you might want to take a look at this, so that this way, again, I'm covering myself. Because understand, nobody protects us except for us. All right. The Real Estate Commission was not set up to protect realtors. The Real Estate Commission was set up to protect the consumer. Okay. And so nobody's protecting us except us. And they're constantly testing us. I mean, there's different ways, that we could get caught in 1,001 different ways. I'm not saying that we do, but again, we just need to be careful about that. So again, the first time, maybe depending again on how many houses you're going to show these people. I mean, if you're going to show 5 or 6 houses, then you're going to have a nice selection for them. And then they could say, then you can drill down their information and then make better determinations, that the houses that they like are really going to be in this community only. Or they might say, I really don't like this community, but I like this community. So, I mean, obviously through conversation, you're going to get a better feel for it. But if they're not really giving you significant information to tell you, oh, I only want this area, then my answer to you is you better show everything that matches their criteria and their pricing. All right, everybody good with that?
This kind of sound, I guess there's no silly question, but
Nope, none.
you help me understand, and you really opened my eyes to this with the example you just said. So, as a real estate agent, you have the listing site.
Okay,
Or you
I'm the
say-
listing agent.
So, just going to say Zillow. So, if someone is looking on Zillow and then they're just, say they just know that you're a real estate agent and they say, hey, I saw this, I'm looking to buy and I saw this house on Zillow
Mhm.
versus, how do I ask this question correctly?
Just tell it the way it is. Spit it out. Nobody's going to judge you for it. Okay,
Yeah,
just
not to
spit it out.
I don't want to confuse you.
You're not.
Because I'm confused.
Okay.
Versus someone, okay, so that's one scenario. And then the
Right.
other scenario would be just maybe a referral, someone saying, hey, I bought my house through Gloria. You're looking for a house. Oh, get in touch with Gloria, right?
Right.
So
Okay.
that in that situation, that will be more so where now you're going and you're looking for houses to show this person versus my prior example is the person already saw a house or two. So they knew the area that they wanted to live in because they saw the houses there. They just wanted you to take them to look.
Okay. So again, if they're going, okay. So what you're saying is somebody saw some houses on, let's say on Zillow or realtor.com or wherever they saw the houses. Who cares where they saw the house? But they
Right.
said, look, they called you up because they call you up and they say, hey, listen, we saw these houses on this, from Zillow, and we want to take a look at these houses. So in the meantime, you're going to say, okay, fine. So what is your criteria? You're going to see that you're going to kind of get an idea of what they like. And you can, because again, remember, it's your gas, your car, right? So you're not going to want to show just one house. So you're going to say, okay, great. I'll be glad to show you that house, but let me pull up some other houses that match your criteria, your price range, and see if I can set up appointments for that same day that you want to see this house.
Perfect. Okay. You just totally answered my question.
Okay, so
Okay.
that's what you're going to do. Now, on the other hand, if they say, no, I don't have time to see these other houses, I just want to see this house. Well, that's all you can do. They're they're telling you what they want to do.
They want.
All
Okay.
right. But if they called you up and they called you up and you hear that they have an accent or whatever it is, we can just tell, right? Let's be
Right.
real. Life is life, right? So then in that case, then you're going to want to show a little bit of everything. And I'm a firm believer of giving them a smorgasbord because I'm
Yeah.
a firm believer that a lot of people, while they think that they know certain areas, they really don't know. So you do a tour with them. Again, depends on how you do business. All right. It used to be, right? Keyword used to, you would take the people in your car. Okay. And then you would, which is the best scenario, but nowadays it doesn't seem to be that way. But the best scenario is you'd have these people in the car, and as you're driving, you're giving them descriptions about the neighborhood that you're going through, and and the price ranges of the houses and things of that nature. And so basically, you're giving them a tour of the area of the houses that you're going to be showing them. Nowadays, it's not like that. But we still do it, or at least I still do it, in the sense that we're on the phone. I'm on the speaker phone. And so I'm like, okay, so this is the area that you wanted. This is the area that this house is located in. And I just want to let you know that blah, 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 blah. And then, and so basically you're doing the tour. That's our job, right? Our job is to educate them as best as we can within our legal limits.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you.
makes sense?
Yes. Mhm.
Good.
Thank you.
I'm glad I was able to help out. All right. So then, yes, go
Sorry
ahead.
for interrupting. Just
No, you're not.
it's Liran. I just joined late. Just wanted to let you know that I'm here.
Good. All right. I'm glad you're here, Liran.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so the next thing is called redlining. Now, redlining is for the financing for the banks, the mortgage people. All right. So basically, what they did at that point in time, what they did was they had a map. Nowadays we have Google, but they had a real map, and they would take a red line or a red marker, and they would circle an area where they would not give mortgages. So it was a specific geographic area, which then that geographic area then showed, then it would apply to the economic situation of those people. And so therefore that red lining, they lined the area that they're not going to be giving. And it was basically discriminating on geographic and economic area. So that's against the law. All right. And also that comes under the Sherman Antitrust Act. All right. The next one. Yes.
Can somebody say like to a
Okay. So the next thing is, this is brand spanking new. Well, not brand spanking new, but newer. Okay. And this is called disparate impact or disparate treatment. I'm not really good at explaining it, so I have a little video that I'm going to put up in a minute. But basically what it is the basics of it is that certain demographics or classes, okay, can be discriminated against unintentionally. Okay, I think is the best way to describe it. So one of the unintentional discrimination is somebody receiving government public assistance or disability payments. All right. And so that would be for the mortgage side of it, right? So a mortgage company may be discriminating because they're getting public assistance or they're on disability payments or anything along those lines. So here in this case, what we're saying is that they're treating them unequally because of finances. Okay. The next one is about housing, and here what they're talking about is the about criminal history, excluding people because of their criminal history, because again, whether it is us representing the landlord or the mortgage company, they are pulling a credit report. Okay. And so in this case, then some of the items can be based on the criminal record, on the restrictions based on their criminal record. All right. And so again, some classes are protected, are handled differently because of that. Okay. And what they're saying here is that they could reject somebody based on criminal history, even though they may not really have been a part of that criminal, whatever it is. They were young, they got caught into it, and they do have some sort of a criminal history, but it wasn't a big deal, right? It was a juvenile kind of thing, and it was, and they've been clean ever since. All right. So, I think it's going to be better for me to put up their website. This is the National Association of Realtors, and here it is. And again, with the National Association of Realtors, the realtor.com, they have all sorts of things that you can educate yourselves on. Can't hear, Gloria. You can't hear? Okay, hold on.
No.
All right, hold on. Let's see what the hell is going on here. Okay, hold on. That's at the top. All right, let's put it all the way to the top. And let me just see here. Do you see it? Let me ask you that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay,
No
all right,
sound.
all right. Hold on. So we got that part. That's good. All right. And where is that? Okay, I got that. But where's the video thing? Optimize for video. All right, let's see if this will help you. Tell me if
In
it
fact,
works.
Several housing providers have found themselves faced with lawsuits alleging the misuse of criminal history in violation of fair housing laws. In New York, a housing provider recently settled a case for over $1 million, where the plaintiff alleged that the housing provider maintained an overly broad ban on renting to people with criminal records. In Florida, as many as 48 Florida housing providers were also sued for the alleged improper criminal background screening of prospective tenants. The use of criminal histories to make housing decisions has long been on the fair housing advocates' radars. In 2016, HUD issued guidance urging housing providers to exercise caution when implementing criminal history policies and practices to make housing decisions. In the guidance, HUD reported that African Americans and Hispanics are arrested, convicted, and incarcerated at disproportionate rates compared to the general population, resulting in criminal history-based barriers to housing and creating a disproportionate impact on minorities. While persons with criminal records are not a protected class under the Fair Housing Act, race, color, and national origin are, and the improper use of criminal history to make housing decisions may have a disparate impact on those protected classes. Under a disparate impact analysis, a housing provider may be held liable for discriminating against a protected class absent any evidence of intent or motivation to discriminate, meaning liability may arise when a facially neutral policy or practice has, or predictably would, result in a disproportionately negative impact on a protected class under the Fair Housing Act. Some states and localities, such as Illinois, New Jersey, and the District of Columbia, have even enacted laws restricting a housing provider's use of criminal records. Consider these best practices when using criminal history to make housing decisions. Have a written criminal history policy. Apply criminal record policies consistently. Do not ask or consider arrests without convictions. Avoid blanket bans on applicants with a criminal conviction. Be sure to exclude only those with convictions that present a demonstrable risk to resident safety or property. Document housing decisions. And become familiar with local and state laws that apply to a housing provider's use of criminal histories. For more information on use of criminal history in housing, check out NAR's article on fair housing and criminal history-based practices and policies. Thank you for watching this episode of Window to the Law.
Okay, so hopefully that helped explain it a little bit better than me. Okay. All right. So the key here is that it used to be that landlords would do a background check along with a credit report check. And so now the answer is you can't do it simultaneously. All right. So what do I have here? Where's my example? So a management company with the intent of keeping all tenants safe might reject an application based on unspecified criminal history. So then this ignores groups who are incarcerated at a higher rate than the general population, not resulting in a safer environment. So again, zero tolerance without recognizing 25% of women have been part of domestic assault. So again, that can also impact them, because if they're still with the person who has a criminal history, then that could be that they're not going to be able to get housing for themselves either. All right. So there's a lot of issues regarding criminal backgrounds. Your brokerage company and so that's called disparate treatment. Okay. And your brokerage company is the one that's going to determine that policy. All right. So thank God we don't have to determine that policy. And again, like I said, a lot of this has to do with rentals and leasing. So in this case, then the key here is starting January 22, right? It prohibits landlords from generally asking about criminal history on housing applications. So if you're going to have a lease application, we can't ask about that. And then the landlords are prohibited from running a criminal background check on an applicant until a conditional offer of housing has been made. So if we have somebody that's interested, the best, again, as I said, we have our little system, right? We have our little rental system. So what's my little rental system? Simple. My little rental system is a lease application and a link to a credit report. That's it, right? Just a credit report. And so then I'll get back the credit report. Do they have a good FICO score? Do they have a bad FICO score? And let's say we have a good FICO score. So then in this case, then I can then write an offer on the rental, right? And so then once that offer is made to the landlord, we now have in writing something that the prospective tenant put in writing. And now if the landlord is concerned about the background, then they can check that background. But prior to that, they could not do that. Whereas prior to 2022, that was done that way. All right. Is
Gloria,
everybody?
isn't that a little conflicting though? Because if I'm understanding it correctly, it's saying when you do your application, they're no longer to ask or have that question on there for a
Correct.
criminal background check. Okay.
Correct.
Nowadays, it's not a full application, it's like a pre-application anyway. So once they do the full application, say they're accepted and they do the full application, and then that criminal background check question is allowed to be on the full application because it
No,
says
no, they're
under
going to be
the
using,
conditional offer.
they have a conditional offer. The offer was, I am presenting, here's the lease application, here's the credit information, and here is their offer on the rental. Let's say it's $2,000 and they're offering $1,800.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's an offer, correct?
Correct.
All right, so I have a lease application that gives all of their information, where they work, etc., all their information. I have a credit report, right? And I have this offer of $1,800, right? So now I'm going to be giving that to the landlord. And if the landlord wants to do a background check, they then can do that because they have an offer in hand.
So what's the difference from doing it at the very start and weaning them out versus doing
Because they
it
would be,
after?
because they would be discriminating against them for criminal stuff. Now they have an
Ah.
offer.
Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
Make sense? Okay,
Yep.
good. All right.
Gloria,
then-
who is responsible on doing those checks? The landlord or are we doing it, the sales agent?
It depends on your client.
Okay.
All right. But if your client is going to be doing the check, you better let them know about this law.
Okay.
All right. Because again, a lot of landlords don't know this law. See, that's where we come in. We have to learn these things in real life. You know, if there's anything new happening with any new laws or anything, we have to know about it, right? Because we have to abide by it as licensees. Landlords, they don't have to. But if they're going to use a realtor, then they're going to have to know about it, or we're going to have to be that buffer to make sure everything is done legally. Make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So again, hopefully we're not going to get sued. But again, most of the, I mean, most people are honest. Most people are upfront. And if you explain to them, because this is the law, and you give them information, the people that get into trouble are the ones that don't help their client by giving them the information so that they understand what we're talking about, right? If somebody says, oh yeah, you can't do this, you can't do that, but I'm not giving any explanation, that's where you're going to get into trouble, right? But if you're upfront, because our job is also to educate the public, right? That's our job as well. So that if they don't know about it, well, now let me explain to you, this is how it is. This is what we got to do. This is the reason why. And most of the time people don't have a problem with it. Okay. That's the basics of that. All right, I'm going to show you another little video. Just to
Wait, I'm
kind of-
sorry, Gloria. One more, I'm
Go ahead.
I'm here with the legal stuff and all of this. I'm just really here with this.
Okay.
And I want to make sure I have a clear understanding. So as a real estate agent, would you be able to, okay, we're going to go to, being fair and caring, as far as for our client or principal, right? Would it be fair to say to the client, hey, look, you have the application, you go fill out the application, here's the paperwork for your credit check. Just keep in mind if there's any criminal background history, if you are offered housing, this may come up and you may have to, do a background check at that time. Are we able to say that, or?
Yes, you're telling them the law,
Okay,
right? We're explaining the law to them.
okay,
Not and again, it depends on where you live, right? That also has an impact. Certain areas, certain towns have a bigger propensity for that kind of stuff than other towns. So again, that's going to have an impact as well. I mean, let's be realistic. There's certain areas where there's more criminal activity than there are in other areas. So
correct.
the landlords that are in other areas where it's not that big of an impact are not going to be as worried as much. Whereas the people that are in areas that have more criminal activities are going to be more concerned about that. So again, you're going to go with the area that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But you're going to explain it anyway. So there's no problems there.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you.
Because talking about the law and explaining to them how this came about, you can even take that video that I got from NAR and say, look, here's the link to a video that I think will explain it to you. Or again, we're not here to hurt anybody, but we're here to explain because we have to follow it as realtors.
Mm-hmm.
Make sense?
No one wants to be sued either. So
yes, and nobody
okay.
wants to be sued. Exactly. That's the key thing here. Okay, so this is just something, it's just a video just to kind of like lighten it up, not really, but to kind of, well, anyway. Well, maybe not. Okay, never mind. All right. Never mind. Okay. So let's go back to the book. All right, so that's the New Jersey Fair Chance in Housing, which is what we just talked about, which is until the conditional offer has been made, then they can go in, and then they can do the criminal background check. All right, so the enforcement. So let's go back to the Federal Fair Housing Law, right? So we're talking about the Federal Fair Housing Law. If somebody feels that they were discriminated upon, okay, what should they do? They're going to be filing a charge with the Department of Housing and Urban Development. So that's HUD. Okay. They have 1 year to file a charge. Okay. If they want to make it into a federal lawsuit, meaning making it into a Civil Rights Act, they have 2 years, and that will go in front of the Supreme Court. Okay. So if it's within 1 year, they will file with HUD. And then after they file with HUD, if they want to make it into a federal lawsuit, then they have up to 2 years. Okay. And the department believes a discriminatory act has occurred or is about to occur. It may issue a charge. So when HUD investigates, if they believe there's a discriminatory act, then they may issue a charge. Okay. And then if that charge comes forward and they want to make it into a federal situation, take it to the Supreme Court, then they have up to 2 years. But the key here is once we've made that filing within the 1 year, it's going to be heard by the administrative law judge from HUD. Okay, that's the key word here. So HUD is going to have the administrative law judge that's going to investigate this allegation. All right. And then and these are words you need to know for the state exam. And then the judge is going to issue an injunction. All right. So the injunction is the action, or the actual, it's a writ, it's in writing. And then from there, they're going to proceed forward to do what they have to do. So if there's going to be any kind of penalties, I'm just going to tell you, this is the one time you don't need to remember the penalties. And it's for a very simple reason, because the penalties are odd numbers. Okay. So if it said 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, I'd be telling you, you have to remember these numbers. All right. But because their numbers have changed, these are brand new numbers. So because the numbers are changed, you don't have to remember it. So if you see odd numbers like this, then you know it has to do with the fair housing law. All right. That's the simplistic way of remembering it. Everybody good with that?
Yep.
Good. All right.
Yep.
So this is the one thing you don't have to remember. But from this point forward, yes, you're going to have to remember the fines. Okay. So you do need to remember that it's the administrative law judge from HUD that is going to be doing the investigations. And if they find that there's been an issue, then they're going to do an injunction. And then if there's going to be any fines, then it's going to be these odd numbers. Now, if somebody wants to take it further up, then they have up to 2 years to make it into a federal complaint, a federal lawsuit. All right. So that takes care of that. And so then in that case, by taking it up to the federal lawsuit, we are now making it into a civil rights complaint. Okay, that's basically what it is. And with the civil rights complaint, there is no dollar limit on damages. Okay, so there's no dollar limit on damages if they're going to make a civil rights complaint and they win. All right. Threats or violence or acts of violence. Again, if there's going to be any kind of threats or acts of violence, whether it's owners, tenants, or yourselves as realtors, then you need to definitely make a complaint to the police and or the FBI office, local FBI office. All right, that's very important. All right, so that takes care of that. All right, it's at 7:16. We're at the New Jersey law. All right, let me see. Let me go to my PowerPoint for a moment, because I know it's getting to be let's just go over it here. Okay, so let's just go over again the fair housing. Okay, just so that we have it again, so we understand it. Okay, so the fair housing is known as Title 8 or Federal Fair Housing Act of 1968. It started out with the race, color, religion, national origin. Then they added sex. Then they added people with disabilities and familial status. So familial status again means any person with children under the age of 18 cannot be discriminated against. They must be allowed housing. And then alcoholics and persons in treatment programs are considered a protected class. So all of these items are called protected classes. Okay. Anybody who's currently a drug abuser, currently an alcoholic, they're not in treatment, they are not protected. Okay. What kind of property comes under the federal fair housing law? What kind of real estate are we talking about for the federal fair housing law?
What do you
It's
mean?
mostly
rental
lease or
or-
rental, right?
Okay,
Residential.
rentals, no, residential, ding, 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 housing, fair housing law. So it's strictly, this law applies strictly to houses, to residential, right? So sale, lease, transfer, but it's only residential. All right. So again, this will also include vacant land that's zoned residential. All right. So this is strictly residential. All right. What do I have here? Okay. So again, Title 8. So it covers dwellings and apartments as well as vacant land for residential buildings. Okay. Then we talked about block busting. Okay, so again, panic peddling is another word for that. So we're telling people that they should hurry up and move out because undesirable people are moving in and they are going to bring the value of the property down. The redlining is for home loans. All right, so again, it was the mortgage companies or the banks that would put a circle around a geographic economic area and state that they are not going to be lending money to that red lined area. Okay. So again, refusing to sell, rent, or negotiate, that's illegal. Changing terms, conditions, or services for different individuals. We have to be equal to everybody. Practicing discrimination through a statement or advertisement is illegal, meaning that you're saying that the property is not available, but it really is available. Okay. Denying membership or limiting participation in an MLS. That might be a question that might come up in the state exam. I don't really know what it means other than it's just not allowing membership. But I know somebody said that they had that question and they were asking it about the MLS. So again, we have to allow everybody equally to be able to participate in membership. All right, the sale or of a single family home is exempted when it's owned by an individual who's going to be doing it on their own. They're not using a realtor and they're not using discriminatory advertising. Okay, so in this case, if they're not living in the dwelling at the time of the transaction, that's the key word. Okay, or they did it most recently, they can do it on their own, but it has to be within 24 months. All right, longer than that, longer than 24 months, 2 years, they don't have that exemption. Okay, and then the exemption again is renting rooms or units where it's owner occupied. So for federal fair housing, you need to remember it's 1 to 4 family. Okay, when we talk about New Jersey law, it's going to be different. We also stated that religious organizations, if they have buildings or property, they have the right to restrict it to their religion. All right. But again, they cannot use a real estate agent. So it has to be their own company or person in the company that's going to be doing that. And the private club, again, has to be membership only, and they can then rent out or do whatever to their members only, as long as they're not operating commercially or they're not operating for the public. Okay. Then we talked about the mental and physical disabilities, including AIDS, was added to the protected classes. The familial status, again, we said under the age of 18 plus foster children was added to that. And we also stated that there's a law for housing for older persons, does not discriminate when we have it set up as communities that are 55 and over, or for senior citizens 62 and over. That would not be considered discrimination. Okay, so that's where that comes in. All right. So the synopsis, here's the synopsis. All right. So fair housing exceptions, never on race and color. All right. But an owner, that's fine. No worries. Don't worry about it. The rental 1 to 4 family. Okay. The sale of 1 to 4 family, religious organizations and private clubs. Again, they are not using a real estate agent. That's the key. Okay. The owner does not own more than 3 single family dwellings. So they can't own more than 3 to have that exemption, all right, or exception, whatever word you want to use. And then again, if they're going to be residing in the dwelling, again, 1 to 4 family, then they're going to, they have the right to do that as well. Okay, so those are the main things for fair housing. Okay, again, the synopsis here: 1 year to file if they feel that they were discriminated against, and then it's enforced by HUD through the administrative law judge, and there's going to be an injunction. That's the key word, and along with the final penalties. And once again, we don't have to worry about the penalty dollars because they are odd numbers. All right, and the key here is when 2 laws cover the same subject, so New Jersey NJ Ladd and fair housing cover the same subject, for us, what happens is the most restrictive rule will always prevail. So for us, NJ Ladd will always prevail. We will always have to follow NJ Ladd. But for the state exam, we need to know the 2 differences. All right. Again, we stated that we have to have the equal housing opportunity poster hanging. Otherwise, if it's not, it's considered discrimination. Okay. And so again, any kind of advertising that you're going to be doing and not doing, even if you're just going to write a letter, if you're going to have a letterhead, then you have to have the equal housing opportunity. And you can also have the RMLS logo as well. Okay. All right. And we talked about that. Fair housing poster, we talked about that. Disparate, we just finished talking about. Okay, fair chance, we just talked about. All right, and we just went through that. Okay, and then now there's also another poster, which is the New Jersey Law poster, the NJ Ladd poster. Again, it's the same thing. It's got to be hanging up. So any kind of posters legally, federally that we have to have is going to be hanging. And as I said, typically it's going to be in the lunch area if there's going to be anything like that. All right. So let's take a break. Let's come back here. Let's come back here at 7:55. Make it easy. All right. Or not.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Mhm. Okay. Oops, hold on. Right. Okay, do I have it here? No, I don't. Okay, so I have to pull it up. Put that there for now. And no, that's not where I want to go. Hmm. I have two of those. And then I changed the numbers. Yes, I did. Okay, good. Okay. Mm. Mm-mm. All right, so I know I'm a minute early, but hopefully we can continue forward.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Sure.
During the classes, are we going in the order of the pages in the book, or it's not necessarily the order
No,
of the?
it's in order of the book.
Okay.
Yeah, it's in
Thank
order of the book. So, because we're now on page 73 in the book, if you want to look at it in the book, we're now going to be talking about the New Jersey law against discrimination. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that in one of the classes we covered chapter 5 or something like that. So I thought maybe we are not necessarily in the order of the chapters in the
No,
book.
he does. I understand he does it because chapter 1 is very small, so that's why he does chapter 5.
Okay, so it's an exception. Okay, thank you.
Right, it's an exception. Right. All right. So we're now talking about New Jersey law against discrimination, and so I have it put together as in this format. And so basically, you can see we have a lot more than the fair housing law. So we've basically got race, we've got creed, which is religion, color, national origin, sex, gender identity or expression, marital status, civil union status, affection or sexual orientation, atypical hereditary cellular or blood trait, genetic information, liability for military service, medical or physical disability, which also includes perceived disability. All right, so if you perceive yourself to be physically disabled or mentally disabled, it's a protected class. Familial status, we've already gone through that with the fair housing. So again, we're talking about familial status with the children under the age of 18. Ancestry, nationality, domestic partner status, and source of lawful income used for mortgage or rental payments. All right. So these are all the items that belong under the New Jersey law against discrimination. All right. And just like the law, fair housing law, we cannot refuse to sell, rent, lease, assign, sublease for any means of discrimination. All right. For a licensee, which is who we are, refusing to offer property or to negotiate transaction as a means of discrimination or lying about the availability of the property. We're not allowed to do that. We're not allowed to change any kind of terms in the real estate transaction or offer services different to one person from the other. And again, no expression, direct or indirect, of any limitation based on discrimination. Okay. Again, one thing that they do ask about is if a one-bedroom apartment is available for two members of the same man and woman, the landlord cannot state that they will not rent that one-bedroom apartment if it's two people of the same sex. So that's prohibited. All right. And again, you can't talk about AIDS or HIV or mental or physical disabilities. All right. The New Jersey law against discrimination is the most severest, the strictest, and it covers all properties. So it covers covers residential, commercial, any kind of property. A property that has an owner is covered by New Jersey real estate license. All right, now where did I put that? Hold on. Okay, so here, I put together a comparison. I don't know how to shut this down. Oh, I don't want to shut that. All right, so I put down a comparison. They have it in the book on page 74. For me, it doesn't make, I did this for me when I was studying, and I've kept it to teach people. So this is the comparison. So the New Jersey law against discrimination, race, and color, all right, is only for civil acts of 1866. For the Title 8, it covers the civil, the race, the color, the religion, national origin, sex, handicap, and familial status. And then when we look on the New Jersey law against discrimination, NJ Ladd, now we're talking about all of them. So familial status also applies to rentals. All right, so not just sales, but to rentals, marital status, nationality, ancestry, affectional and sexual orientation. And again, the source of income, can't discriminate in sales and rentals. Okay, the Civil Rights Act affects all property. Now, when in this case here, all property under the Civil Rights Act means both real estate and personal property. All right, that's what that means here. In New Jersey, all property means residential, commercial, just strictly real estate. Any kind of real estate, NJ Ladd protects. Okay, the next thing is under the laws, are lenders covered? Under the Civil Rights Act, no. Under the Fair Housing Act, yes, only institutions, meaning lending institutions. And under NJ Ladd, it's any lender that is going to be lending money on a credit basis. All right, and we'll go into more detail on that, or the other teachers, Tim's going to go into that. The exemption for a sale of a single family dwelling, Civil Rights Act has nothing, but under the Fair Housing Law, the broker cannot be involved and the owner cannot own more than 3 homes and not use discriminatory advertising. Under NJ Ladd, there's no exemption for sale of a single family dwelling. The next one is exemption for rental of a 1 or 2 family dwelling. So under the Fair Housing, if it's owner occupied and the sale did not exist within the last 24 months, then it is exempt, but it's exempt for a 1 to 4 family if the owner occupies it. All right. In New Jersey, it's only a 1 to 2 family, right? So it's a duplex or a 2-family unit. Does not apply to 1 to 4 family. All right. So the 1 to 4 family only applies under the Fair Housing Law, and the 1 to 2 family only applies under NJ LAD. Okay. Exception for housing restricted to one sex, no. Exemption for religious organization, yes, under fair housing, yes, under NJ LAD. Exemptions for private clubs, yes, under fair housing, as long as it's not commercially used, so it's not open to the public. Nothing under NJ LAD. Denial of entry into the MLS or membership into the MLS, yes, there's a situation with that under fair housing, but no provisions under NJ LAD. Okay, the enforcement, if there's been a discrimination, all right, we already, for the Civil Rights Act, it's under the federal court. Okay, under the Fair Housing Law, all right, you have 1 year to apply to HUD or to sue to HUD. And then the administrative judge is going to investigate and put out an injunction, or you have up to 2 years to bring a federal suit, meaning going after the Civil Rights Act. Under New Jersey and JLAD, it's way more strict. You only have 180 days to make a complaint regarding discrimination, and you'll be applying that to the Attorney General memorandum, and then the Division of Civil Rights is going to be doing the investigation, and they may issue a cease and desist order within 45 days. All right. The fine for the first offense, again, as I said, we don't have to remember for fair housing, but for a New Jersey law, we do. So the first offense is $5,000, and then for the second and third offense, it would be $10,000. If there is no such thing as anything more than 3 offenses. All right, so that's that. Under the Fair Housing Law, the Department of Justice can also sue regarding discrimination, and they have limits. Okay. And again, the poster part. Okay. So I don't think, I mean, I would just read it and know about it, but I wouldn't memorize that. I would be worried about memorizing the enforcement timing for fair housing and the enforcement timing for NJ LAD and the fines for NJ LAD. Okay. And then again, understand that this statute applies to rentals under NJ LAD. Okay. The other aspect of NJ LAD is that if there are properties that have 25 units or more, rental properties of 25 units or more, they are going to have have an annual report sent to the Division of Civil Rights. All right. And they have to do that yearly. And the Attorney General memorandum is the law. It is the document that has the New Jersey law against discrimination. So the Attorney General memorandum is what we have as a separate document that goes along with the listing document. All right. So if we're going to go for a listing, we're going to go to a seller, we're going to have a listing agreement, and we are going to have the Attorney General memorandum, and we're going to have to go through that with the seller. All right, so that they know what the New Jersey law is all about. Okay, so that's basically that. All right, any questions regarding that?
Nope.
Okay. All right, so New Jersey law also has their own discrimination poster that needs to be posted. We just talked about the enforcement and the offenses. Ooh, I didn't update that. All right, so disregard I have to update that. So the first offense is $10,000. All right, and the second offense is 25,000. And then for any subsequent, it's up to $50,000. All right, so disregard mine. This is the correct $10,000 for the first offense under NJ LAD, $25,000 for the second offense under NJ LAD, and up to $50,000 for subsequent offenses under NJ LAD. Okay, if somebody is going to be interfering willfully, then they could be fined up to $500 and go to prison for up to 1 year. All right, again, we said that the complaints are filed at the Attorney General office. Okay, now the fair chance in housing, that discussion that we had about the criminal activity or the criminal background check. All right, then in this case, again, here you do have to remember these. So here the fair chance housing is subject to $1,000 for the first violation and up to $5,000 for the second violation and up to $10,000 for 2 or more violations within 7 years. So again, the first violation within 5 years is $1,000. The second violation within 5 years is $5,000 and up to $10,000 for 2 or more violations within 7 years. Okay. Okay. The Attorney General memorandum is basically the New Jersey law against discrimination, and it's basically in 4 pages. All right. So this is what it looks like. I think I have it on mine because you can read it better. Yeah. So this is a brand new one that came out in 2021. All right. So the law against discrimination, it's giving you all of the items, all of the protected classes, where it applies to. So again, here it applies to advertising, selling, renting, leasing, subleasing, assigning, showing properties, including open land, and that's what it applies to. And then you cannot discriminate against the sources of lawful income. So in this case, again, we're talking about rental assistance or some sort of government public assistance. Biggest problem that they've had is regarding Section 8. So about 3 years ago, there was a situation that happened in New York where, and again, I'm not sure whether this was an investigation or it actually happened to the reporter. But basically what happened is that the very big companies, big corporations, Coldwell Banker, Sotheby's, there was a third one, 3 big companies in New York City. They were telling this person on the other line that their client would not take Section 8. All right. And so that became a very big deal. And then so because you're not allowed to state that. All right. Because Section 8 is basically rental assistance monies. All right. And so they got caught. They were recorded. I mean, this wasn't just a talking thing. This was recorded. They were stating that they would not allow Section 8, and you're not allowed to say that. Okay, so very, very important. You're not allowed to say that. They have to take Section 8 if everything is good. All right, the money is directly from the government. It's not like, I mean, yes, people that have Section 8 may have to pay separately from the Section 8 housing allowance monies, but we can't say that the landlord is not going to take it. All right. It used to be that that you were able to, or not, I wouldn't say able, but it used to be that agents would put in the listing agreement or into the MLS that the landlord would not look at any applications with credit scores less than 700. Again, with this lawsuit that happened, you're not allowed to do that. So there's, there used to be things that people did to prevent from people wanting to apply that have Section 8. Now that's totally gone. And if you get caught, again, you could get into trouble. And so again, as I'm mentioning, the Fair Housing HUD. So not only does the Real Estate Commission, the New Jersey Real Estate Commission, hire volunteers to test and check people, but HUD does the same. And HUD has their own group of checkers and testers, volunteers, free. They don't get paid. And they can call you, they can visit you, they can email you. You don't know how it is. And so in this case, you have to be very, very, very careful about that. All right. The other thing that was recently in the news was about quid pro quo sexual harassment. That I have that in my PowerPoint. There was sexual harassment about that. Again, that's illegal. You're not allowed to do any kind of bias harassment, sexual harassment, or any of those kinds of things. All right. Let's see what else. Again, we talked about disabilities. So again, the landlord has to allow for modification. The key word here is called reasonable modification. All right, they must allow reasonable modification, and it's at the tenant's expense, not at the landlord's expense. So if the tenant needs some sort of reasonable modification, they are allowed to, they should be allowed to do that. The tenant is the one that's going to be paying it. The only thing is that the landlord might request that they use his or her handyman or construction person or whatever the case may be. All right. So that's regarding that.
Gloria,
Yes.
under what circumstances does the Attorney General's memorandum not come into play with
It never does.
Section?
It always comes into play on everything.
Okay, so for Section 8, not
Yes.
every place except Section 8. So how?
That's illegal.
Okay.
I just finished
Okay.
saying that. Yes, that's illegal. All right.
Okay.
They cannot say that they don't accept Section 8. Now, they can say that they can take a look at somebody that has Section 8, and then looking at the credit report, they have, let's say, a very low score. Let's say they have a 560. All right. And they can then say, based on the credit, we're not renting to you.
Even a private homeowner?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Right. But New Jersey law against discrimination applies to everybody in New Jersey. Is there a lot of things happening illegally in real life? Absolutely. But we're not going to talk about that because that's not going to help you with the state exam. All right. So, but bottom line, the Attorney General memorandum is the New Jersey law against discrimination. All right. Again, also inquiring about documentation of a person's immigration or citizenship is also a violation of the law. All right, so you can't ask for their documentation regarding that. What else was the other one that was important? All right, those are the basics.
Just sorry, Gloria, just to verify. So if somebody is illegally in the country, we cannot verify that the documents?
Selectively inquiring about or requesting information about or documentation of a prospective tenant or buyer's immigration or citizen status because of the person's actual or perceived national origin, race, or ethnicity, or otherwise discriminating on such basis is a violation?
It's a very complex sentence.
It is a very complex sentence. And so basically what it is saying is that you cannot ask information, documentation, citizenship, or immigration information based on their origin, race, ethnicity, or anything else that can discriminate. So I guess the answer to your question, again, I don't know, I'm not law, so I'm not going to talk legal, but based on reading this, if we were looking at Mexicans coming in and we're going to ask them about that, that would be discrimination, wouldn't it?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, but my concern, Liron, is let's not worry about what happens in real life right now. Worry about what you need to know for the state exam, because there's way too much stuff that you need to worry about the state exam and not including everyday stuff. Make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. And that's not something that they're going to be asking you about, just so you know. But the fair chance they will ask you about that. All right. So that's the criminal records. So again, they have to make an offer before they could check the background. All right. The landlord cannot check the background before the offer is made. So basically the way it's set up now, most brokerages will have a company that they use. And the way these companies are now set up, because this wasn't like this before, okay? So now the way it's set up is that the company will run just the credit report, nothing more, okay? And then if you get an offer and let's say the landlord is concerned, then you can go back to that company and then run a background check, all right? That's basically how it's being done now. Whereas previously everything was done at once. All right. But now we're not allowed to do that. And again, just so you understand, all of these kinds of things that I'm talking about right now, even though it's a little bit real life, most of the brokerage companies are going to explain it to you, tell you, give you the links, give you the information. So, you won't have to worry about, you'll always be in compliance. All right. Because the brokers have to be in compliance, because again, is the broker responsible for your actions?
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Right. So they don't want you to screw up because they don't want to lose their license. All right. So they'll make sure that you know everything that you need to know to be in compliance on anything and everything. All right. So that's basically that. But what do you need to know? Yes, you do need to know these numbers for the NJLAD, the fines for the NJLAD. Yes, you must remember that. And then, yes, you must also remember for the fair chance, the 1,000, 5,000, where is it? Probably down here. Yeah. All right. The 1,000 and the 5,000 and up to 10,000 for the fair chance. So yes, you do need to know these numbers in the event that the question does come up for you. Okay. And as you can see now, whereas previously we the licensees did not have to sign, okay, this Attorney General memorandum, now we have to sign it. So when you're presenting the listing agreement, they're going to sign the listing agreement with you because they're going to allow you to sell their house. But then you and the owner of the property are going to be signing the Attorney General memorandum. So my answer to you is you better read through this thoroughly so that you understand and you can explain to the buyer. Now, to the owner of the property. Now, you may not need to read it, word for word, although I will tell you that when I first started in real estate, I read everything word for word in front of the seller. Whatever it was that I had, I read it word for word. And then after slowly, I started to be able to summarize it. All right. So if you feel comfortable in reading it word for word in front of the seller, go for it. Don't be intimidated. All right. Very, very important. Okay. So a landlord cannot refuse to rent a one-bedroom apartment to two members of the same sex if they're going to rent it to two members of the opposite sex. All right. It's illegal to subject a tenant to sexual harassment. Okay. A lease may not provide that it becomes null and void because somebody got pregnant and had a baby. All right. A housing facility that does not admit pets must permit a service animal or an emotional support animal. All right. A person with AIDS is considered a person with disability under New Jersey law and is entitled to protection against discrimination. All right. Landlords, okay, are allowed to enforce health regulations limiting the number of persons allowed for the size of any given apartment. So in this case here, this health regulations that we're talking about, that is going to be based upon the municipality. All right. So we said that NJLAD is the most strictest law that's out there. Yes. And then we're going to add another layer in the event that the municipality has an additional restriction or law that has to be enforced. All right. And so then that's where that would come in. All right. So that's that. The biggest thing as far as when we're talking about leasing or renting, you're not going to be able to discriminate on anything except for, and I'm using this very loosely because I don't want you to get stuck on it, but you're going to be able to not lease or not rent a property because of credit. Now, again, because of credit, because their FICO score is too low or their payment history is horrible. But again, it's not going to be because they have government subsidies or government payments or whatever the case may be. All right. So in quotation marks, the only way we could say no to somebody is because their credit history is lousy. Everybody good with that?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Making sure. Okay. Again, as I mentioned, the multiple dwelling. So if an owner has an apartment building, more than 25 units, they are going to annually have to report the racial composition of the tenants and the way they advertise and handle rental inquiries. Understand now, just before somebody says something, an apartment building with 25 units is a commercial building, and it is handled totally different than a residential unit. So they would have additional information on their applications that they are then going to be able to disseminate the racial compositions or whatever the government wants. All right. And again, if the person doesn't want to answer those questions, they don't have to answer it. But the law for them is that they do have to tell them how their building is, because this way the government, the state can check to see if there's any discriminations happening, and or they can also see if like certain neighborhoods are changing, right? Because now let's just say something is happening in the neighborhood and now the composition of the people in this apartment building is changing. So now the government, the state might come out and say, okay, why is this changing? Because if we looked at all the past things were this way, but now they're changing. And so then they might come out and take a look and they'll see it's not the owner of the building that's changing the composition of the people. It's because the area, the economic area is changing. All right, everybody good with that?
Yep.
All right, I hope you all are awake. All right. Okay, the next thing that we have had to deal with is called love letters. I don't know if I have this working. Oh, maybe I do. Let's see what we got here.
Hi, I'm Charlie Lee, Senior Counsel and Director of Legal Affairs at NAR. As buyers compete in a hot real estate market, they are searching for ways to stand out from the crowd. One method being used is to send a love letter to entice the seller into choosing their offer. While a love letter may seem innocent, they can raise fair housing concerns and risk exposing both the real estate broker and their clients to legal risks. The Fair Housing Act makes discrimination illegal in the sale or rental of housing and prohibits making housing otherwise unavailable because of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, disability, or familial status. Many states and local governments have their own fair housing laws, which can include additional protected categories. The use of a love letter often presents fair housing issues because they often contain personal information about the buyer, such as their race and culture or traditions, as a way of appealing to the seller's emotions. Some buyers even go as far as sending sophisticated packages that include photographs and videos. For example, a buyer might send a letter with a photo of their family around a Christmas tree. As a result, the buyer has revealed their religion, which is a prohibited basis for a seller to base their decision to reject an offer. While it may not be the buyer's intent for the seller to use this information to discriminate, that is essentially the position that a love letter can place the seller. When considering that the information cannot be easily forgotten or unseen, a love letter may ironically cause the seller to be fearful of selecting the buyer's offer because of potential discrimination issues. Therefore, real estate professionals should advise their clients about the risk of love letters and, at a minimum, stress the importance of avoiding including any information in the letter that could be used to legally discriminate. But of course, even a photograph of the buyers could lead a seller to give preference to a buyer or reject them based on race or other background. Fair housing is a high priority throughout the country, and states are closely monitoring the practice of love letters. In fact, just recently, Oregon enacted a law to take effect on January 1, 2022 that bans the use of buyer love letters. Here are some best practices to consider when it comes to love letters. At the outset of the relationship, speak to your client about the risks of buyer love letters and the potential fair housing issues they raise. Remind your seller client that an offer should be assessed based only on objective criteria, such as price and timing. If your seller client insists they want to receive buyer love letters, advise them to consult legal counsel and to document their decision-making process in selecting an offer. Avoid helping buyer clients to draft or deliver love letters. Be sure to warn them against revealing any personal information that could raise fair housing issues. Counsel them to focus on the characteristics of the home or other objective information. Lastly, help your buyer clients find other ways to differentiate themselves to win the property. Beyond offering more money, the buyer may consider offering more flexibility with the closing date, additional earnest money, or waiving other contingencies that may appeal to the seller. Thank you for watching this episode of Window to the Law.
Okay, everybody good with that?
Yes.
Are we all awake?
So I've
Yep.
never really heard
here.
of this before. So these are letters that the buyers are actually giving to sellers?
Yep. Yep. Yep, I was a big proponent of it. But yeah, I still am. Okay. But the key is that when being a proponent of love letters, I never included pictures. Okay. And I never told them to describe themselves, but I would say that, they had children, that's not illegal. Okay. So I would say that your kid, because let's say the house had a beautiful playground, right? So when they would ask me, well, what should I say? I said, well, you have kids. Look at the beautiful playground. Write something about the kids playing on the playground, or something along those lines. Again, it's about the real estate. It's not about the people. It's about the real estate. And so that's basically what we would do. And 9 times, I would tell you this is 100% true. 9 times out of 10, if I had a buyer that wrote a love letter, that buyer would get the deal. I mean, unless the deal was really horrible, right? But if it was a good deal and we had the love letter, 9 times out of 10, I would get the deal. But nowadays, with all of this, I'm like, even though as much as I'm a big proponent, I don't want to chance it. So that's where we are with that. The biggest problem was that people started to when I first started in real estate a while back, it wasn't easy to send photographs in a letter or something like that. You know, you'd have to print out the photo and all of that. So and most of the time they were just talking about how much they really liked the house, the cuteness of this, the that, blah, 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 blah. But as the internet got bigger and you could do all sorts of things, I mean, you know, people started to do pictures and pictures with the dog and the pictures with the horses, or you know, whatever it was that they had, to try to influence. So you know, they took it way beyond what it was supposed to be. So not advisable now. All right, so that takes care of that. Okay, so the next thing is about zoning discrimination. Okay, so the zoning discrimination is about a lawsuit that happened with Mount Laurel. All right, there is a town called Mount Laurel, and basically what they had done was that they had taken some property, some land, and they rezoned it into something different than residential. And the reason for that was it had to do with a lot of new construction, new development and everything. And they did not want to have moderate to low income housing. And so basically they rezoned that one area. And so basically they discriminated against low and moderate income housing. And so the NAACP sued and stated that they were discriminating against these people and that they have an obligation to provide a range of housing, right? So from low, moderate, high, in between, whatever. Okay. And so the NAACP won. And so basically what happened was that they were, I can't find the right word. I want to say convicted. That's not the right word. But anyway, they were convicted of exclusionary zoning. All right. And so the lawsuit, Mount Laurel #1, came out that every municipality in New Jersey, so there's 552 municipalities, every municipality in New Jersey, if there's going to be new construction, the municipality must allow new construction of low to moderate income housing, so that this way they could provide that range of housing. And so that was basically what the law stated under Mount Laurel 1. But it didn't state it in more detail. It was just basically that all municipalities had to allow for a range of housing, low to moderate to high to whatever. All right. So then what happened was these rich towns would turn around. And again, I don't know the legalities of it, so I can't explain it, but I'll just tell you the basics of it. So basically, these rich towns that did not want these low to moderate income housing, because we're talking about new construction here. We're not talking about stuff that's already there. So what they would do is they would turn around, and every town, every municipality had a quota or an allocation or an allotment, whatever word you want to use. And so these rich towns would sell off their allocations to other towns that were willing to build for that rich town, and that town would get paid. So the town would get paid for building these low to moderate income housing, and then it would, in quotation marks, fulfill the allocation for the rich town. So then what happened was that NAACP came back out again and sued again under the Mount Laurel, and saying that no, we need to have a much better qualification, because towns, there are these rich towns that are not building low and moderate income. And again, that's exclusionary zoning. So in this instance, then again, NAACP 1. And so then it was clarified in more detail that for any new construction, whether it be houses, apartments, rental apartments, makes no difference. Any new adult community, I don't know about adult. Yeah, no, adult community, adult rentals, any new construction, they are going to have to set aside 20% for low to moderate income. All right. And so that was the final decision. So now any municipality in New Jersey that is building brand new construction, they have to set aside 20% of that new construction that's going towards the allocation of low to moderate income housing. All right. And it makes no difference if we're talking about houses for sale or houses for rent. So in my area where I live, I don't live in that town. I just live next door, which is Rumson, a very wealthy area. Okay. They had no low income housing. And so I want to say maybe 5-6 years ago, well, actually more than that, there's been a lot of builders that were wanting to buy property and build houses and include the low to moderate income housing, and the town would not allow it. So here it says here, the builder remedy, they have a lawsuit against the municipality by a builder who says that they've been disadvantaged by the local zoning laws. All right, where the municipality has not put in place a written plan to handle the creation of housing under Mount Laurel decisions. So I want to say maybe 10-15 years ago, there have been quite a few builders that have been suing Rumson because Rumson was not changing their zoning to allow low and moderate income housing. So now in the last 2 years, there's been builders, they already bought the property and they've been holding on to it and suing. But now we have these small houses in Rumson that now is low income housing. So again, they built 10, and so 20% of the 10, so that's 2, goes to low housing and moderate income. But it will be handled. So we as licensees will not be involved in those particular 2 houses, as an example. That will go to the Housing Alliance. What's it called? Affordable Housing Alliance. All right. So the low and moderate income, that housing that comes as a result of the new construction, is going to be handled by the Affordable Housing Alliance. So because these Mount Laurel units, they are actually stated in the deed that these are Mount Laurel units. The deed is usually for 30 years. So they have to state Mount Laurel or Mount Affordable Housing for 30 years. All right. And it's inside, it's stated in the deed. All right. Yeah, that's it. Right. Deed is restriction. All right. So everybody good with that? Any questions regarding that? Are we all awake?
Yep.
Good.
Okay. All right. So that takes care of that. Okay. Then the next thing is that we as realtors and NAR, we have made a pledge that we are, obviously going to uphold the Fair Housing Partnership with HUD, and we're going to do everything in our power to uphold housing for everyone. All right. So again, we've got to display the housing opportunity. We have to make sure that we make the right responses, that we're not discriminating, and the other thing is in the book. I want to bring it back to the book. All right, so that was that. Zoning discrimination here, this here. Okay, I'm on page 84. Yeah, that's 84. Okay. Oh yeah, here. If a prospect implications. Okay, here. So if a prospect expresses a locational preference for housing based on race, the association's guidelines, so that's NAR, suggests the following response. I cannot give you that kind of advice. I will show you several homes that meet your specifications, and you will have to decide which one you want. All right, because discrimination involves sensitive areas, human emotions, fear, self-preservation, prejudice, misconception, whatever word you want to call it. All right, but this is basically what you're going to have to say. All right, and the key is you are going to be asked. There is no doubt at all in my mind that somebody isn't going to be asked that question, or they're going to be asked, well, what is the neighborhood made up of? Is this a mixed neighborhood? Is this blue collar? Is this white collar? My answer is I don't know. I don't live here. Okay. And that's basically that. So you asked me for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in the $500,000 range. This is what I am showing you. If you have any concerns about the neighborhood, then it's on you, without me being too rude about it, but I will be kind of rude about it. If you have any concerns about the neighborhood, then you better drive around and check it out on your own, which they do anyway. All right. But I don't want to be put into a position that I'm going to have to answer it. You don't want to be put into that position to answer it. If they're interested, then it's on them, because the reality of all of this, no matter how you slice it, the reality of all of it is that they are buying the house, right? And some people are lazy, no doubt about it. And so they want you to give them the answers so that they don't have to go out and do their due diligence. And the answer is, we don't do their due diligence. They have to do it themselves. We will give them whatever information we have legally, rightfully. And then if we have additional resources that can help them to get their answers, that's our job, right? We are the resource. We are never the source. Okay, so we are the resource, but we are never the source. So if we can give them websites to go to, or talk to people, or telephone numbers, that we can do, but we can never give them the actual answer that they're looking for. All right, everybody
Gloria?
good? Yes.
Question.
Sure.
Is it allowed? I see sometimes in listing that some agents are describing the town with the level of schools, the achievements of school, etc. Is it allowed?
Well, that's a very fine line. All right. So, in the seminars that I have gone to by the state attorney for realtors, he says we're not allowed to give out anything, meaning we can't talk about it. We can give them the information for them to get that information, but we are not allowed to give that out. Now, again, everybody has their own interpretation of that. So, my answer is just don't be specific. Right? Because the issue is, if we were to look at it, let's look at you and look at me, right? Now, not that I have kids, I don't have kids, but let's pretend I have a child going to this school, and my child has a propensity for, let's say, art, right? Acting, art, you name it, right? And your child has a propensity for technology and math, all right? So now you're going to ask me, what about the school because it's the town that I'm in, right? So, well, what do you think about the schools? and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to rant and rave saying how wonderful and awesome my school is because this program that my school has is geared towards the arts. All right. So I think it's a fantastic school. And so I'm going to tell you it's a fantastic school. But now, if you do your due diligence and you look at the school, you're going to say, this woman is crazy. What the hell is she talking about? It's absolutely no good for my child.
No, I Gloria, understand that. But for example, every school has a ranking. So if I'm putting in the listing the ranking of the local high school, it's a fact, you know, it's a fact that somebody else, you know, ranked it, not me.
And again, I would be careful with that because let me my favorite phrase. What's on the internet isn't always 100%, right? And I'm sure, as with everything in life, there's more than one ranking.
Okay, thank you.
Right? So could you send them to that website? Absolutely. Right? That's what I would do. If me personally, I would send them to the school. All right. And I would say, check out the school, talk to the school, and then they can go from that. Like there's because again, it's what they need and what they want, right? And a ranking doesn't necessarily still, in my opinion, again, I don't have one, but I don't think that is really what the person is looking for. They're looking to get more information. Would that be true or false? Or maybe.
Okay, thank you. I tried.
You tried what?
Try to get some more, you know, information into the listing, but I guess we cannot say anything other than describing the house.
We're selling real estate. We're not selling schools.
But we're selling house and neighborhood.
Right, but you're not selling a school.
May I ask a question,
Sure.
Gloria, to Laron? When
Sure.
when you're speaking of the ratings in the school listings, I mean, with the ratings being included in the real estate listing, are you referring to like on Zillow, after you have the listing, when you scroll down all the way down to the bottom, and then it has the neighborhood rating and the school rating and all of that information there, Laron? Because that's not a part of the listing.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not a
but
part of it.
you know, for example, sometimes I see a listing when the agents, you know, it's a blue ribbon school or something like that in the listing itself. But okay, I understand the issue. I got the picture.
Yeah, I mean, if the school states that, right? Again, I would go to the school website. What does the school website say? Okay. But again, my answer is I am selling a house, and yes, I'm selling the neighborhood, but it's not for me to make a decision on the school. Because what I think is a great school, you might think it's an absolute piece of you know what.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right. So again, and then again, that's where that's that situation with discrimination comes in. Now, the other part that we need to know about, and they may ask you on the state exam, okay, is about reverse discrimination. Okay, so reverse discrimination is we as brokers are going to be the ones that are caught in the middle. All right. And basically, it's because the local municipality is trying to balance things out. And rather than balancing things out, it's doing reverse discrimination. All right. And then we're the ones that get caught in the middle. All right. And here what they're saying is that the local laws sometimes run counter to what the federal and the state rules are. All right. And so again, we might get caught in the middle. But again, if you can refer to the legal things that whatever it is implying about, then it's not that you're doing it. It's because this is what the local law is, and that's what you have to refer to. All right. All right, so advertising, again, there's, the key is that we can't describe it based on, the easiest thing to remember about advertising is that I can only describe the real estate. I cannot describe the people that are going to be living in the real estate. I think that is the easiest way to remember. All right. So I can talk about anything there is to know about the real estate. It's got a beautiful green, lush lawn. It's got a Trex deck that's 50 feet wide. It's got a walk-in closet, although I'll leave it go at that, et cetera, et cetera. So I can talk about that. It's got granite counters, marble flooring, jacuzzi tub, walk-in shower, glass door showers, blah, blah, blah. It's got the sliding glass doors, blah, blah, blah. None of that is describing the kind of person that's going to be living in that house. All right. And so that's the easiest way to remember regarding advertising. All right. So again, here for one of better, for what the HUD is recommending, again, is going to be, you know, you want to be neutral. Okay. So again, you could say master bedroom or good neighborhood. That's pretty neutral. Again, what is good for you may not be good for me, but you're making a statement that it's a good neighborhood. All right. You can't say anything religious. All right. So you're not allowed to say anything at all about religion. However, in some places, like in my area, we have a couple of high-rise buildings that, while it seems, I'm not going to say it any more than that, it seems that there's a lot of Jewish people living in that building. All right. Or there's a bigger dominance of Jewish people living in that building, and that building also has a restaurant. So, and that building also has a chapel, which is perfect for my class here. We can say that this building has a chapel. So we're not specifying any religion, but we are saying that the building has a chapel, and the restaurant serves kosher meals, or the restaurant has kosher meals available. So that this way, because there is a big predominance of the Jewish people in this building, we are saying that as a result of that, kosher meals are available. So if you are Jewish and you want to move into this building, you know, you have that availability. All right. For some other people, it might not mean anything, but for some people that does, you know, that does mean something. And you are not violating, because again, you're not describing the person, you're just saying that kosher meals are available. Okay. Because again, we're not describing the person. Again, they're talking about Santa Claus, Merry Christmas. Again, we're not talking about people, and it's not a violation of the act. Here, the terms mother-in-law suite, bachelor apartment, again, we're using them as physical descriptions. We are not talking about the people, even though it says mother-in-law suite. We're just basically saying that there's an additional unit. I think they're now called ADUs, additional units. So now we could call it that, or mother-in-law suite, or bachelor apartment means pretty much it's for one person living. All right. If we're talking about a property and we're saying that it's a 4th floor walk up, again, we're letting people know there's no elevators here. So if you need an elevator or you can't walk up a flight of stairs, well, this apartment is on the 4th floor and it's a walk-up building. All right. So again, I'm describing the building. I am not describing the person, but in a way, I'm letting the person who can't do this know that it's not for them. All right. Jogging trails, walk to bus. All right. They don't violate anything. And then saying non-smoking or quiet. Okay. Again, so we can say that this building is a non-smoking building. All right. Or that the neighborhood is quiet. So we can say that because again, we're not describing the individuals. I know I'm harping, but I'm just telling you what it is. All right. And then familial status, again, you can't be specific about the limitation. So, you know, you could just say that it's, in our case, familial status. If we say that it's a 55 and over community, then that's not discrimination. We're just letting them know that this is a 55 and over, and that means no children under the age of 19 can come live in this residence. All right. What else? I think that's it. Let's see, what else do I have in the book here? 546, 550. Okay. So that's basically it. And here they've put it together in a Excel format. All right, testing. So I've been harping on that, but this is where it is right here. Offices can be visited by testers or checkers, undercover volunteers, who are making sure that they're being treated with the same way that another person would be treated. All right. And the courts have agreed that it is acceptable for them to do that, to make sure that people are complying with the fair housing laws. All right. And let's see. Again, it's on the broker, not on you, but you need to know the laws, you need to know the rules and regulations, but it's on the broker to have a written policy on fair housing. All right. So like the broker is going to have a written policy on anything and everything that is going to be part and parcel of your independent contract agreement, right? So they're going to tell you what the business policy is. And then in addition to that, maybe not part of the contract agreement, but they are going to tell you what their policies are on rentals, fair housing, and any other kind of things that they need to keep track of, because they are just as responsible for how you treat people, because they could get into trouble if they don't correct you, or they're doing something illegal as well. All right. What else can I think of here? Record keeping, very important in real estate. I call a Bible. All right. This is the kind of book I have. It's just basically a spiral, right? Nothing fancy. And I write down, depending on what's happening in the day, I might have just one page for the day, or I might have 2 or 3 or 4 pages for the day. I basically have my books since 1995. And so if obviously I only need to keep 6 years, but I don't know, I had 1995. And basically then this way, if ever anything happened, I can always go back here, my own personal, whatever records I've kept. And then obviously you want to make sure that all of the documents that you're doing for whatever business you're doing is going to be put up with the into the broker's portal, however way they want you to do it. All right. Any questions? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps?
No.
No. All right. So what we're going to do, what do I have here? Oh, okay. So this is a test that I took. I remembered it, believe it or not. And so now we're going to see what we know or what we don't know. All right. So we got married a couple of years ago, and we both agreed we need a home with more room. Something with a bit of a backyard would be a definite plus. All right. So this is you responding. This is the realtor responding. All right. So which one is the correct response? 68.
B.
All right, so we have C.
B is in boy.
B is like boy.
B is in boy. Okay, boy. Okay, let's see. What's the answer? Do you have a sense of how much square footage? Okay, so now we're hoping for at least 1,500 square feet Our main concern is space for things we want, a home theater, a yard for dogs. Our current place is tiny, but we do love some things about the neighborhood.
C.
C.
C is in Charles.
Charlie is correct. Okay. And then what do I have? Okay. And then, oh, just things we like to do together, have picnics in the park, poke around secondhand shops. Renters, we never got very involved in the community efforts. We'd like to change that after we move, but are not sure how to get started.
D is in Charles again.
Yep. And there you go. All right. So that is C is the correct answer. All right. So so that's basically that. All right. Now let me just go back here. Let me just see. All right. Let me just. Yeah. All right. Huh. All right. So I just want to kind of go over some things in general. The real estate commission and the broker are not going to take care of you. It's the truth. Okay, this is real life now, right? And so in this case, then basically you need to protect you. Okay, so when you're doing business, you want to make sure that you have some safety nets out there to protect you. So my first saying is, don't go show a vacant house in the middle of the night. Well, not in the middle of the night, but late at night when it's dark. All right, because you don't know who the person is, and this is not the PowerPoint that has the different videos that I have, but there's been a lot of women that were killed, realtors that were killed because they met somebody in a vacant house, and the reason they met somebody in the vacant house is because they wanted to get a deal. All right. Your life is way more important than trying to make a deal. So if you are going to be showing a house and it's vacant, then bring somebody with you. It could be your husband, your wife. They could be sitting in the car, right? But whoever it is, whether they're good, bad, or indifferent, at least they know that there's somebody sitting there waiting for you to protect you, right? Again, your biggest safety item is your key. Okay, your car key. Carry that in your hands at all times, so that this way your panic button. Now I know there's some cars don't have keys anymore, but the keys have panic buttons. So if you're not comfortable, press that panic button. And if somebody was not planning on doing nice things, they're going to get scared with that noise. You know, bad people don't like noise because they don't want to draw attention to themselves. So that would be another thing. When you're doing an open house, again, be very cautious about that. Now, the thing about open houses, there's because people now have a lot of cameras. All right. These are questions when you're listing the house, you're going to need to ask them, because now there's a lot of cameras that are not like ADT where they're attached through wires in the walls and all of that kind of stuff. So questions that you're going to do is you're going to be asking whether they're going to be taking those cameras with them or leaving them behind. Or if it is a service that put them in, then basically you're going to leave those behind, and the new buyer may want to use their service or not. But that is something that you do need to ask about. All right. The other aspect of it, because these are new law things, the other aspect of it is if they do have cameras, you need to let them know that they cannot have the audio on. It's illegal. It's a civil rights lawsuit. All right. So you want to let your sellers know that yes, they can have the video on if you don't want them to check up on you, but I mean, if they have to, they can have the video on, but they cannot have the audio on. The other protection that you would also do for yourself and for the buyers coming in, you may want to put a sign, whether you're doing an open house, you might want to put the sign on the front door saying that there's video recordings within the house. So if somebody doesn't want to come into a house that has video recording, well, then they're not coming in. They've been told about it, or they'll know ahead of time, to be more quiet about their enthusiasm about the house. All right. The other thing, at one point, there were these groups of people. I don't know if they were young or old, doesn't really matter, but they were going to open houses and going through medicine cabinets to get pills. All right. So again, these are kinds of things that you want to tell your owners to keep locked up or whatever the case may be, because you can't keep in an open house when you're showing people, you can't keep your eye on everybody every single second, right? So you just need to be aware of these kinds of things that are happening in real life. And then again, as I said, you want to protect yourself. It's a very, very, we're becoming a very violent society. So I mean, look at all the different road rages that are going on out there. So you want to be, you want to protect yourself. So just be very vigilant about that. Everybody good?
Yep.
Yep.
All
I think you
right.
just scared me.
Huh?
I think you just scared me.
Well, it's the truth. Aren't
I
you
carry
scared?
mace though, so it's okay.
Well, see, there you go. See, you got something, right? Me, I got my key, and if I have to, I press the panic button, and I'm good with that. But again, you have to be aware of these things. And again, when I go inside a house and I don't know the people, like I've never met them before, or something like that, I'm telling you now, keep the back door open, right?
Right. Yeah.
Keep the back door open so that if you have to run out, that back door is open. You don't have to, you don't have to pass that person again if you feel uncomfortable. I don't go into basements, right? I just don't. All right. So I'll stand at the top of the stairs. I might go down one step, but they're all in the basement. I'm not. Okay, unless I got to know them and I'm feeling more comfortable, that kind of thing. But for the first go round, no. For the first go round, if they want to see the attic, they're climbing the attic stairs. I'm not. I'll help them pull down the attic stairs, but they're the ones that are going to go up. When you're showing a house, you want to make sure that they're in front of you, not behind you. Right? So when you open up the door, you want them to pass in front of you. Oh, here, when you're showing the bedroom, oh, here's the bedroom. They're walking into the bedroom, not you. I'm at the doorway. Okay.
Good
Same
information.
thing.
Thank you for that.
You're welcome. Same thing with the bathroom. I mean, you can only fit so many people in a small bathroom. So, but again, no matter what I'm showing, I'm letting them go in because they're buying the house, not me, right? But I want to make sure that they're not doing anything untoward. But again, if I have to escape, I'm ahead of them rather than behind them, right? I mean, as far as when they're in the rooms, I can run if I have to. So those are the basics. Again, we have lock boxes. All right, most of the lock boxes now are electronic, so you will have the lockbox software go onto your phone, and every night the codes change. So the only way a person can go inside that house is with the realtor and the lockbox. So that's a form of security for the owner. But once that person is inside the house and you're showing the house, I mean, now you have to protect yourself regarding that. All right. And that's all that I can think of right now. All right. Any questions?
Nope.
Okay. All right. So I guess we'll call it an evening then. All righty. So y'all
Thank
have
you.
a great weekend.
Thank
Enjoy
you,
the
Gloria.
wonderful weather. You're welcome. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Gloria.
Weather. You're welcome, Ujunwa. All right. Have a good weekend.
You too.
You too.
Too. Thank
All
you.
right. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.
Night.
You're welcome.